Welcome to the 17th episode of the HiFi Five. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing these shows for you. Our regulars are Jay Caceres of Jay's Audio Lab, Elliot Goldman of Bending Wave USA, and Danny Kaey of EMMLabs and Sonic Flare. We are very happy to be joined tonight by Doug Schneider, founder of SoundStage. SoundStage was founded in 1995, and it's the world's largest group of audio and music websites. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Before we get going, hot breaking news. Tom Martin of the Absolute Sound published yesterday an article, How the Absolute Sound Works, Ethics and Incentives. Apparently, somebody's listening to us because this is the Absolute Sound's explanation of how reviewing works, how Absolute Sound is a business, how products are selected for review. If reviewers suggest products of interest, how are reviewers compensated? Does advertising affect what product gets reviewed? So I am mentioning this to suggest
never.
I'm mentioning this to suggest that we are having an effect and people are listening to us. How is everybody tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Was the answer a paragraph or 60 pages?
Well, no, it was a good piece. It was a well thought through written essay, several pages.
Yeah. Doug, longtime admirer, first time caller. Always enjoy reading your magazine, magazines, I should say.
Yep.
Personal preference note to you. I think you should look at modernizing all your websites.
How do you mean modernizing?
They're too old school looking, I think. Like
okay,
adopt some more modern web themes, design elements. There's so much that's been happening over the last couple of years on website design and flow and all that. I think you would really benefit from that because your content is awesome. It's just, I think you could definitely benefit from like a refresh.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, we have to update the content management system anyway, and these things are always happening. So it's been a few years. There's no doubt. Good point.
Question number one. Which is the most technologically impressive audio manufacturer factory you have ever visited? Doug, first, I know SoundStage has a lot of factory reviews. Which is the most technologically sophisticated factory you've ever seen?
Yeah, so I knew this question was going to come up, and I really had to think about this because technologically, you mean advanced, right? And that sort of thing?
However you want to take it, yeah.
Okay, if you want to know
most
the most
impressive
advanced factory, I was recently there in the summer. It's Dyne Audio's car factory in China. Forget what maybe people think about what Chinese manufacturing is. This was like walking into the future. It's owned by Gore-Tex, a company of 65,000 people.
Wow.
They build the highest tech electronics in the world. And Dyne Audio's car factory produces 5 million drivers per year with zero defects.
Wow.
What?
And we got a video about it on our channel, SoundStage Network YouTube channel, and almost no staff.
Huh.
Okay. It's what they call a dark factory, meaning no lights. There's robots running around the ground. The drivers go through these chambers. We were very restricted in terms of what we could film, but we filmed the whole gist of it. And hardly any staff, all robotics, AI to do QC. And basically they go for 5 million drivers a year, no defects. So that's the most advanced, okay, in terms of the production. And then I had to think, there's a lot of impressive factories like Sim Audio's got a great factory. T+A's got a great factory. Vitas Audio, Dyne Audio's Denmark facility. But then I thought Paradigm Group or Bowers and Wilkins in England.
Oh, wow.
Bowers and Wilkins in England is super impressive. We have also a tour there. And that, I was shocked to see that they build everything for the 800 series there, right down to the tiniest parts, like the tweeters. They're doing the diamond domes there. They're doing this. But then Paradigm does the same in Mississauga, Canada. And Paradigm Group is Paradigm, Martin Logan, Anthem, and now Golden Ear. So it's a 225,000 square foot factory in Mississauga. Wow. All 4 brands are made there. Not everything's made there. Some of the stuff, the lower price stuff, is farmed out overseas, but all the Martin Logan panel speakers are made there. All the Paradigm upper scale stuff, that sort of thing. Anthem is manufactured there. Their level, giant anechoic chamber research facilities, tons of robotics, paint shop, that sort of thing. Plus, in my city, just 2 miles away, they have what's called Paradigm Advanced Research Center, which has upwards of 20 engineers doing the electronics. That's where Anthem room correction comes. That's where so technologically impressive. I would give it to Paradigm.
Danny, you've been to a bunch of factories.
But here's just a comment about that, because I heard that before about Paradigm having impressive technology to build the speakers. But, you know, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen anything, you know, that is rivaling some of the top mainstream brands like Wilson or Magico. I mean, Magico has an incredible facility too. I did the factory tour. I was impressed by what they do. But I mean, to your earlier point, Paradigm having all this money, they still, for some reason, listen, correct me if I'm wrong, but their perception when it comes to loudspeakers has never been at the level of Wilson and Magico. Why is that?
Well, I can tell you this. So back when I first got to know Paradigm, we're talking late 90s into the 2000s. At that time, Paradigm never built a speaker above $2,000 a pair, which was Studio 100, because they were going for market share.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me at that time, once you hit $2,000 pair, at that time, you've hit 95% of the market. And everybody can have the other 5%. And I knew dealers at the time, Paradigm would just sell without selling it.
Mm-hmm.
People would just come in and say, I want that. I want the mini monitor. I want the studio. I want this. I want that. Danny's nodding his head because he probably knows. Now, over time, when they acquired Martin Logan and stuff, they started building. But I think even now their top speaker is $35,000 a pair. That's the 9H. They don't strive. Now, maybe they will in the future, but they don't strive to go cost no object or anything. They go for high value.
Mm.
Oscar Walter, Valentino von Frucht, what do you think?
I guess I was just going to say the flip side of that question is, technically speaking, I guess, you know, does having an incredibly technologically advanced factory equate to having incredible performing top of the line products?
That was it. Yep.
Right. And I don't think so. I don't think that the two are necessarily related. Right. I mean, I'm willing to bet if you went to any of the Foxconn factories in China that make, AirPods and iPhones and whatever, that those are even more bonkers than any of the ones you've described, Doug. But then again, no one thinks of Apple or Android or whatever as anything high end in that traditional sense, right?
But I would say this, and this came out of actually the old designer of Golden Ear. To do a great $2,000 speaker, a great one,
mm-hmm.
is much harder than it is to do a great $200,000.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
With that much engineering. And, back in the old days of Paradigm, and I got to praise this company, and same with PSB, they were making $500 speakers that would kill $2,000 and $3,000 speakers.
Yeah.
And that's where that engineering really came in, that ability to build it. That's one thing. You can get things built elsewhere. You don't have to have your own factory. That's when we say technical ability. If Paradigm wanted to aim at $100,000 speaker, they could do it. They've got the monolith under the Martin Logan range. I think that's about $100,000. And they built
the Neolith.
What's that?
The Neolith.
Oh, yeah, Neolith. Yeah, about $100,000. And that's built in the Mississauga factory.
Tremendous speaker. My time with it was great. I definitely will say that.
Yeah, and that's built in Mississauga, top to bottom.
Elliot, do you have a factory that you think's the most impressive?
Well, my experience is kind of different. I mean, if we're talking the most impressive factory I've ever seen, it had nothing to do with audio. But I kind of agree with Danny and Jay that high-end audio is much more hands-on, non-robots, none this. Most of it is hand-built and things like that. So I've been in quite a few of them in the U.S. and in Europe. And I was really, again, if I talk to them, I mean, two of the ones that really impressed me were one in Switzerland and one in Germany. And because not just that they're incredibly efficient and clean and all the rest of it, but they don't waste a lot of money on things they don't need. For example, I went to CH. They don't make sheet metal, but I went to their sheet metal place, and the guy that makes sheet metal is in the Watch Valley, and they build casings and stuff, which they told us they wouldn't tell who the watches were for. But, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see this Rolex signs lying around and things like that. They had the sheet metal facility was amazingly cool with the machines. And then I distribute Gerbil, as you know, and Oliver has an incredibly efficient factory. And I went to the suppliers that, number one, that do the paint job, which do the lacquer, is a $10 million computer facility where nothing is touched by hand. And then I went to we use an epoxy resin piece that they make the structural portion of a lot of the speaker at. And watching that guy program a CNC machine and watching the machine with a diamond tip that basically wears out after it wears one pair of speakers, and the way all of that is done and then stacked and packed and moved, the Germans are really, really efficient. As you know, the coolest thing I've ever seen has nothing to do with audio is going to the BMW factory where you watch this gaggle of robots that you can't believe that they're not going to smash into each other and break everything. And everything is going like this at 1,000 miles an hour. And they can build one model car one, and then right after that, another model car. And then after that, a different model car. And the coolest thing to me is watching the cars go through the paint booth, because my family was in the car business, that they can go from a white car to a black car to a green car without doing anything. And that's impossible in real paint work. It was really cool to see.
Now, I want to throw in, because I was asked for technological, and I still would put Paradigm right at the top. I mean, amount of stuff when they can build electronics, electrostatic speakers, dynamic driver speakers. But two factories, if you want to talk about handiwork, Bowers and Wilkins is excellent, but I think nobody can touch Sonus Faber. Okay.
Wow.
When you go to Sonus Faber, it's about 50 people. The vibe there of craftsmanship is unparalleled.
Wow.
Unparalleled.
I believe that.
I mean, when you look at the detail, and a lot of the detail on the speaker comes down to industrial designer Livio Kakuza. Mm-hmm. Every line has a different pair of binding posts. Everything has a different slight look. It all has its own. And the way the people work in the factory, it's a real Italian vibe. And then the other one's American company, and it shocked the hell out of me last week, was MSB Technology in Watsonville, California. Mm-hmm. They don't do justice to themselves by what they show on the website, but they do almost all the metal work. They don't do that anodizing there, but almost all the metal work. But then the depth of engineering, I always knew they made their own DACs, like their own DAC architecture that they put in a gold bar, but then they make their own clocks. We're talking the circuitry down to the oven controlled thing. They work with a company that makes the crystal oscillator, and I've never seen anybody do that. Okay. And whether that results in a better product is another story, but in terms of that depth of engineering, it was shocking. I didn't expect that.
Question number 2. Let's move on. Is there any way to bridge the subjective audio objectivist measurements divide? Jay, you want to start with that?
Is there any way to bridge? Can you repeat the question?
The subjectivist audio mentality versus the objectivist measurements mentality?
That's a tough one, because some people are a little more analytical, I think, in their own mind, right? Some people love numbers. And I think those that have a passion for numbers in general, usually a lot of engineers, for example, would love measurements to actually justify spending money on HiFi or whatever amount of money that a brand might be charging for their particular product. I don't know if there's a way, because it's just two different mindsets, two different personalities. I like to use this analogy all the time of what kind of viewer are you when it comes to documentaries? Do you like raw and uncut like HBO, or do you want them censored like Netflix? right? It's just it has to do with you. So it's gonna be hard to find some sort of a bridge to be able to join both mindsets. So I don't think personally there is a way.
Elliot.
I'm not a measurement guy. I'm not a science guy when it comes to audio. I have discussed this with some of the people that manufacture products. My issue with all of it is that we have a lot of measurements, and I'm not dismissing them, and I'm not saying they're not important, but they don't correlate to what we hear. Okay, if you look at graphs of most speakers, they look very similar, or amplifiers, but a lot of the things that we hear, at least they're not measurable today. Maybe they'll be measurable sometime in the future, but certainly I have not seen where somebody can tell me, oh, I see this on the graph, and therefore it's going to sound more tubey or more transistory, or it's going to have better depth, or all the rest of it. So to me, honestly, I don't even think it's an important thing. Maybe it is for a designer, but for me as a music listener, it's irrelevant.
Doug.
Yeah, 100% there's a way to divide, and it's education. Anybody that takes any type of polar opposite, they're completely wrong. Completely. Always gray, always in the middle. The measurements matter a lot. But in the end, it's the listening. That's what it results in. And a lot of people, the number one researcher probably on loudspeakers was Dr. Floyd Tewell. A lot of his stuff gets misconstrued, but he said it begins and ends with listening. And that's how he conducted all of his research. They began by doing listening tests. Then somewhere in the middle, they did a whole bunch of measurements and say, do these measurements correlate with listening? And they say, hey, yeah, all these people who did like this looks like this. All these people who didn't look like this looks like this. And then let's fix this up. Let's change this. Let's take a scientific approach. Now let's do the listening again. Oh, gee, now we have kind of a correlation. Now, it doesn't predict 100%. Okay, but it gives you, go get a blood test. Doctor says, geez, that's looking a little off in that blood test. Maybe we got to look at this, right? And it doesn't tell exactly. It comes in listening, but to understand. So, Elliot, you had said that all the speaker measurements look the same. They don't even look close to the same once you can read the measurements. You might see little resonances in the mid-range, in the high frequency, subtle depressions, changes in dispersion, that sort of thing.
Yep.
They can look night and day different. Those little things can add up to a lot. Now, they might not tell you exactly how it will sound, but they can give you an idea. And they can also tell product competence as well. That's really big. So to me, education, and if I had to choose one or the other, I choose listening, because ultimately we have to listen to the product. That's how it's used. But I want to understand what's in the middle, and the measurements are vital.
Well, I won't argue with you on some of it, but I will tell you this, and I go back to it all the time. Measurements may be fine for some people, but I find, and maybe you agree with this and maybe you don't, but I don't really think most people know how to listen. And so looking at a graph, I'll give you an example. I was talking to Jay about this afternoon. Okay. And I'm not diminishing these people. I'm just making a point. A couple of people said to me, well, Wilson has this thing that they teach all their dealers for setup. It's called Wilson WASP, WASP. And having gone through this, because I've been a Wilson dealer a few times, okay, somebody comes to your place and they go through the setup and they go through their whole thing. And I'm not going to explain what it is. It's really not important for this discussion. Okay. And they say, okay, you're trained. And they leave, and you go back to your store, and you don't sell a pair of Wilson speakers for 8 or 10 weeks. And then you're going there, and you've got your blue tape and your rulers, but you don't know how to listen. So it wasn't the blue tape and the rulers. It was understanding what you're hearing in order to make a correction. And what I said about, I'm not talking about Melissa stuff, but if you look at a spec sheet, every speaker, every amplifier says it's flat within 2 dB or 3 dB from 20 hertz to 20,000. They all say the same thing.
Yeah, the spec sheets, I'll agree, they're completely irrelevant. The spec sheet.
Okay. Maybe a Melissa graph or something else like that might be able to take, I'm certainly not talking about Floyd Toole. I mean, I'm not in the same league with him. I don't know anything about the science, but the majority of people, and if you really want to talk about it, okay, let's forget the engineers. Let's talk about the people that review it. They don't understand the measurements, with the exception of maybe a couple of people, and then trying to correlate it. They may understand the measurements, but I'm not sure they're good listeners. And you have to be both, okay?
Okay, but now we're off topic. The topic was, can we bridge the mentality of measurements versus objective, versus subjective? Let's take Danny. Danny, go ahead. What do you think?
So I think the objective measurements ground us in reality, because otherwise you can make all sorts of claims about this, that, the other, and just take my word for it. It is what it is. And it's like, okay, well, that's great, but thanks, no thanks. Most recently, one thing that comes to mind is Robert Levy at Positive Feedback, my old alma mater, reviewed some Stein thingamabob.
Stenheim.
Was it Stenheim? Yeah, Stenheim.
Speakers?
No,
Speakers?
no, not Stenheim. Stein? I think it's Stein. The
Stein.
little dots or whatever the hell
Yes,
it is.
Stein music. Yes, Holger.
Stein music. Yeah, you had the guy over, I think.
Yeah,
Ron.
Holger came over. I didn't know I was getting ambushed with a voodoo tweak demo, but yeah.
Yeah, and so so Bob Levy, the effervescent gentleman that he is, he reviewed these pucks, and somehow magically these pucks are supposed to increase your soundstage or whatever. So he shows a picture of one of these pucks on his, I believe it's in his office system, and it's a small room. I've been to his house several times in many years past, and it's mounted on a records drawer or dresser or something like that. You can see the picture if you just go to Positive Feedback. And oh my God, soundstage increased 22.7%. And I felt the musicians were 6% further into the soundstage than before. WTF? Like, seriously. Complete nonsense, complete garbage. Can you please show me any kind of objective mathematical model, chemical formula, quantum computed theorem that actually spells out that little doodad mounted on your dresser is going to produce that? So again, all I'm saying is measurements ground us in reality.
Okay, my answer to the question is no, there is no way to bridge this divide. I have had numerous conversations, people on Facebook, people on What's Best. The problem is, it seems to me, is this. Once an objectivist says to you, if I cannot measure something you think you hear, then you are delusional. And that's a showstopper. Once the objectivist says that, there's no fruitful path forward of discussion or mutual understanding, in my point of view. Next question we've covered before.
Can I just address that, Ron?
Yeah, sure.
Because once people take extremes, they're both wrong.
Fair enough. I like that view.
So when I hear somebody say an objectivist, it's like somebody only who looks at graphs. And I've never met a single designer who's entirely measurement focused totally dismiss the listening. It's the extremists on boards that only do that. So the actual problem is with a few people, and it's education to understand, no, there is a correlation here. It's just that you don't get it. And the people who say, no, measurements don't matter at all are equally wrong. No, they do matter a lot.
In my view, though, the measurements people are very polarized, and if they say, in my experience, exactly what I said. If I can't measure what you claim to be hearing, you are delusional. And to me, that's a showstopper in terms of a fruitful discussion. Let's go to the next question. Question number 3. We've discussed this before, so I just want a yes or no answer. I don't want to spend time on this. Do you personally believe that everything we hear can be measured? Can everything we hear be measured? Yes or no? Let's go in turn.
No.
Yes.
Doug?
Maybe.
Elliot?
Certainly not now.
Okay, and the correct answer is no. Not everything we hear can be measured. Question number 4.
Hold on, Ron. What? Like, who's on whose authority are you making that claim that is in fact so?
Mine. I don't believe that everything we hear can be
you-
measured.
Who blessed you with the genius to know that is in fact so?
John McLaughlin from the McLaughlin Group from 20
Can
years
I throw
ago.
one? Can I throw one thing in from a magazine perspective?
Sure.
Okay. The measurements you see when we set up our electronics lab a few years ago, and Diego Stan does the measurements, I said, do as many measurements as you can, as many. And I think we're doing the most exhaustive set of measurements. He comes back with like 40 graphs on something, right? If I tasked him for 2 weeks, he could come back with 4,000 more on the same product. That's why I said maybe. When we look at measurements now, you're seeing just a snapshot, even with 40 deep, okay? It's just a snapshot of what could be measured. That's why I said maybe we could, if you task somebody for a year on a product, measure everything you can think of about this product.
Okay. Question number 4. Let's get to the tough stuff. How can any advertiser-supported magazine or review site or YouTube channel maintain editorial independence and honesty? Doesn't advertising eventually become influence, even if it didn't start out that way? Doug, let's start with you actually on this.
So this isn't a new topic, and I've always argued this argument. Okay, advertising. Yes, they pay advertising. If you're going to pay someone off, you don't have to advertise. There used to be publications in the past that say, oh, we're honest because we don't advertise or we don't take advertising. Well, do you take payoffs? You get money some other way? I mean, if you're going to pay somebody off, there are other ways to do it besides advertising. Okay, so the idea that you can't be independent and take advertising, well, you might not take advertising and you can't be independent either because you're getting a payoff some other way. So, yeah, I think you can be ethical and take advertising.
Danny.
Gosh, I mean, how many times have we discussed this now on this show? Look, I think marketing has overrun everything these days. I think in the world of YouTube, in the world of us just being on YouTube, ironically, everything is a promotion. Everything is being influenced. Everything is being peddled one way or the other. And I think you just have to be very outright vocal about your disclosures of what you're talking about, right? When I began my relationship with EMMLabs 6-7 months ago, I fully disclosed it. And guess what? As a result of that, I sincerely doubt that I'm going to get another DAC or amplifier in for review from anyone. Right. But that's fine with me. I made that decision and I disclosed it. Right. Are there people out there that are not disclosing stuff properly? I'm sure there are, because it's in every industry. You go from anything related to watches, cars, hi-fi, coffee makers, refrigerator reviews. Everybody's got a price.
Jay.
For me, it's a tough, it's a thin line to walk on, in my opinion, of course. On one hand, I want to believe that there is a way of having pure transparency while still have a business with those partners that are asking you to review their gear. But there's always forces behind the curtains that are happening that unfortunately most of us are blind to. We really have no way of knowing what these conversations are. I don't think I would pay a magazine to review a product if I was a manufacturer and I knew that they could easily say your product is just trash. It's not great. I'm not saying, I know they wouldn't say that in those terms. I'm just being a little bit aggressive with my terminology, but what I'm trying to say is I feel like I don't know if they would do that. I don't know if they would tell the truth and tell the consumers, don't buy this. It's still in beta. It's not ready for to be released. It's not where it needs to be. I've never seen an article like that. And I know for a fact that magazines have at one point or another reviewed or seen product that they had full intention to release to the public, and it wasn't ready, and they had to send it back and never say anything about it. So to me, if they do that, they are already not being authentic and ethical. So I don't think it's possible.
Elliot.
Well, I think I've answered this question too many times, and I don't know that I want to get into any more trouble, but I think there is theory and application. In theory, yes, it's possible. In application, I don't see it.
Okay. Question number 5. Then we're going to move on from the ethics topics, which we all seem to love. Question number 5. How transparent should media outlets be about who pays their bills?
Ooh.
Want me to go?
Yep.
Sure, Doug. Go.
100% transparent. I learned a long time ago. I used to run sports organizations and stuff like that. And the best, where you got judging and things like that. And the best thing is be honest and you don't get yourself into trouble. You might piss a few people off. Okay. But when you don't have anything to hide, that's just easier. I'd like to say 100% of our revenues come from advertising, but maybe money trickles in that doesn't make it 100%, but at least 99% of our money comes from advertising.
And when somebody advertises with you, does that mean they automatically get a review, a factory tour, or something?
No. And that's a great thing. And this is something that goes back, and it doesn't happen that much. But I will praise a couple companies. Paradigm again, and one that got bought up by Klipsch called Audio Products International. They owned the Sound Dynamics, Energy, Mirage brands before, and they were, a big competitor. Danny's nodding his head. Back when I started SoundStage, and we started doing good things. So SoundStage started in 95. By the end of the 90s, we were measuring speakers. They phoned me up and said, we will advertise with you because we want to support you doing good things, and we want to be associated with good things. Wow. This happened recently with, I won't name the advertiser, a fairly large one, company that everybody knows in audio, but the owner phoned me up and said, I think what you're doing is great on the videos and all that type of thing. We want to make sure we support that. They've never sent us a product for review, ever. Wow. Interesting. And most of my advertisers, I would say 50% don't send products for review.
Wow.
Ever.
Really?
They just keep oh yeah. Huh. And we have a thing where we want to maintain advertisers too. I've got one advertiser, goes back to 1998.
Wow.
They sent one product for review in the early 2000s. Now that doesn't mean others won't and they'll advertise, but if you do a good job, I'd like to think we do. We provide measurements. We pay all our writers. I pay a graphic artist. I pay Gordon Brockhouse as a full-time editor. There are costs, and manufacturers recognize that. And so I would say, back to the question, can you be transparent? Yeah. SoundStage, 99% of the revenues come from advertising.
Look,
money might trickle in.
I think you're a just from obviously we've even though we've run into each other at shows and stuff, not that you would remember lonely old Danny Kaey. Anyway, but
Danny Kaye's not here to speak for himself. It's Oscar.
That's right. Sorry, it's Oscar. Oscar Valentin von Aufrecht. You're a professional outfit. I think anybody with half a grain of brain can tell by looking at your website, by looking at your disclosures, by looking at all of your how you carry yourself, your writers, etc. In fact, I was just on the Audio Unleashed podcast with Brent and with Dennis. Everybody is super, right?
We have had hiccups in the past. I won't get into them. Hasn't always been that smooth as a learning experience. But
Of course. My question, I have a specific question, actually, if I may. With regards to these factory tours that you guys do, can you break that down for us if you're willing to or want to, what that looks like from a compensation perspective?
Transparency. Okay, I'll tell the world because everybody thinks. So here's the thing. They're SoundStage productions. 100% of the video costs are on us. SoundStage. My video guys, Chris, Jordan, Jer are all paid by SoundStage. Our airplane and travel costs are all on SoundStage because what we do is we usually group companies. We don't want companies booking our trips. That creates a mess. It creates a conflict, that sort of thing. Number three, the one thing we ask companies to do is pay our hotels while we're there.
That's fair.
Okay. They know the hotels. They know this. It's a small expense on their side. That's it. Now, if companies want to advertise, they can, but they don't often. Okay. And it comes out of our advertising pool. Companies know. And, you know, the one company I mentioned that everybody knows that came and never sent us a product for review said, oh, I like that you do these videos. And I know this costs a lot. So full transparency, all the travel's on us, except for the hotels, all the production's on us. And we have the say on the videos.
Wow.
We show the companies a video. We say, because one thing that isn't good at companies was we go running in with video cameras and they're a factory, right? They might not want certain things to be seen because they're building stuff, right? And so we show them, is anything showing here or is anything wrong that you don't want seen, like the bathroom doors open or something's under half or some damaged thing was there. And usually it's like 1 or 2% things and sometimes nothing. So that's how it works.
So they're not paying you for the actual, they're not paying you for the visit itself.
No.
That's impressive. That's
impressive, Doug.
Every time, and I'll tell you something that's pissing me off in the industry. You want. We've made it a joke. A lot of Product of the Year awards, ours are free. It started as a joke a couple of years ago. A company said it's nice to get a trophy because we hand a trophy and not get a bill with it. And I said, what does that mean? And magazines have resorted to selling trophies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never knew that. I'm like, and one company who's won a couple, I said, every time you ask me about that, I feel like I'm losing money. But I think it's a better way to run.
Yep.
Jay, your thoughts?
So that's full transparency. Ask anything like that.
Hey, Doug, great job, man.
Yeah, I'm very impressed that you guys are willing to basically pay the tab, right, to do a factory tour, because I really don't know if that does anything for the magazine. I think it's more for the brand, right? Because they need to justify why they're charging $100,000 for their speakers. For example, when I went to see the Magical Factory, people were asking me, I want to see why they're $100,000, $200,000. And they got to see the production. They got to see the metal work. They got to see the measurements. They got to see the drivers in and out. So people, believe it or not, when I did that tour, I had a lot of people who called me to tell me the reason why they bought a specific Magic Wood speaker is because of the video that I had made. They felt like they could see where the money was going. Same thing with Boulder amplifiers. People saw the metal work. They saw everything that happens on the one roof. So I think for brands is a very, 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 very good idea to have a magazine do these tours. It's really, really important. Okay, because a lot of buyers, and I think you know this, Doug, a lot of buyers feel always like uneasy about spending 50, 60 grand in this industry, in any product, unless they can see with their own eyes where that's going. Is this some dude in the backyard building this stuff, charging 100 grand? Right?
And that's what I told the guys at MSB. I said, you got to do a better job of, because, okay, their new DAC is $350,000. I'm never going to afford it in 10 lifetimes. But I don't care if somebody buys it. And what they've put into that thing for 350 grand is like a car engine. I'm like, this is super impressive. And I think you're right, Jay. In order for companies to charge these prices, they have to prove why. But I will say something. So what it's done for the brand is good. But what it's done for us is as good. Because what I said to our guys, I want us to be a global publication. We used to say we're North American. I want us to be seen. So companies from Europe, like most of our products don't come from distributors. They come direct from companies, shipped from Europe. overseas. And that's why it's been good for the magazine too.
Well,
Elliot, your thoughts?
Well, first, just to finish on this, I think that going to a factory or doing a factory tour and actually the consumers being able to see the factory and perhaps even have some kind of interface with the boss or the owner are incredible factors in customers feeling comfortable in buying something. I know for me, every time I've been invited to a factory, I've come back with a completely different viewpoint of that company, as well as knowing the product better and feeling much more comfortable when I present it to somebody of what actually went into making this thing. Okay. As most of you know, and I'm not saying all the viewers don't know, I mean, I'm not going to badmouth products, but there's a bunch of stuff out there that I think is a bunch of very mediocre in the way it's built and put together. And I don't understand the numbers, but when you go to a serious factory and you see the way it's made and the care that they take, from the way they handle it to the way they manufacture it to the way they package it, I think that's really great. To get back to the transparency thing,
Yeah,
this is my big problem with all of it. Okay. And I've had this argument with Lee Scoggins when he was on and all the rest of it. It's like, if you're a magazine or a review process and you're a profit-making organization, all I hear is excuses. Well, there's no money for this and there's no money for that. Well, okay, then where did the money go? If you're taking 40, 50, 60 pages of advertising in every magazine, but you can't pay guys to go to a show, you can't pay for their hotel room, everybody has to have free equipment. I mean, at least if you're transparent, I can understand it. Okay. If you're not transparent, I don't believe you. That's just me. I don't believe you.
On that note, I just want to add one thing. So I got my start, as many of you know, with Positive Feedback, David Robinson and Dave Clark's magazine. I was never once paid to attend a show. I was never once provided a hotel room to attend a show, much less a flight. And the pay was basically $50 an article. And, you know, why did I do it? Well, again, playing around with hi-fi gear, getting to know the industry, making a name for yourself. There's all these auxiliary benefits and ancillary benefits that you can derive from it. But, you know, I think it just goes to show that with all the advertising that's been thrown around, where did all that money go to? Right?
Danny, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know it shows that, you know, I've talked to CapFest and Expona. I mean, they're comping 50 and 100 people from the press.
Right.
Just as full disclosure, we pay for our guys to go to shows. We don't pay for them to write articles, but if they want to go to a show, their flight is fully paid and the hotel is fully paid. Now, a couple show organizers will actually do the hotels for us, but if they don't, and so that limits our staff at the shows. Like we went to CES, I was spending like 12 grand a year just to bring like 5 guys to the show. And that was excessive, but it was the show at the time.
Well, at least you're disclosing it. The point is that these other people are not disclosing it. You know, I've had a conversation with a couple of the show organizers, and they're telling me they're comping 50 and 80 and 100 rooms from all kinds of press. Okay. And okay, that's fine. Again, then just say it. Okay. Right. Just say it.
Yeah. No, a transparency is a good idea.
My answer, the transparency thing is one of my favorite topics. And my answer is absolutely, there should be transparency. I want to mention, Doug, first, I'm very impressed that I really was assuming that you charge for those factory tours. I watched a bunch of them. Your production quality is incredible. It's like a Hollywood
And I credit
movie.
my video guys with this. So
I don't know this stuff is so professional. I thought for sure you're getting paid for it. So I'm impressed that you're not. On the question, my view is every review should disclose whether the manufacturer, the distributor, the dealer, the brand involved is an advertiser of that publication. And I believe that every reviewer should disclose whether, in connection with the review, he or she is receiving any direct compensation or any indirect compensation, including component gifts, long-term equipment loans, travel hotel expenses, and steak and wine dinners at fancy restaurants in Cincinnati. Jonathan Vallon. Question
Really?
number 6. Over the last
Yeah.
20 years, where has the high-end industry made real progress in increasing the believability of our reproduced sound, and where has the industry fallen short? Elliot, you want to start?
No.
Okay. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Or Doug, go, the guest of honor.
I think there hasn't been really any improvement at all in the last 20 years. What there has been an improvement in is quality. There's a lot better manufacturing capabilities now than there was to make products better finished, more reliable, maybe tweaked here and there. But when you can pull out a 50-year-old recording and have it sound astonishing, when you can pull out a 25-year-old amplifier and have it fully competitive. I've got a 20-year-old one sitting over there that's outstanding from Anthem, actually. Where have the improvements really come? I'd say we've had more refinements and improvements in quality and fit and finish.
Danny, you want to go?
I completely agree with what Doug said. I think you have to kind of break it up into the actual experience of experiencing music playback. I think in many ways we've walked back. I don't know what Doug's stance on multi-channel audio is. But I think from an experience perspective, we haven't done anything. And again, I feel like we've definitely walked back. And yeah, from a fit and finish perspective and quality, beyond a doubt. I mean, it's amazing what, somebody in the comments mentioned the Boulder factory, which I went to actually. Incredible stuff what they do, and the fit and finish and just impeccable, right? So yeah, kind of share my thoughts with Doug there.
Jay.
I think where they have fallen short is the main thing for me, which is, and I hate to go back to it, but I just think that the price points are just ridiculous. That's the thing. They have not been able to, in my opinion, to allow for new audiences or new audiophiles to enter, because the first thing they see is basically five digits on any reputable product that's out there. A Wilson, a Magic, or the main players, it's 5 digits, the entry point in most cases. So I don't think they have found a way to present better choices and options for new young audiophiles. We see it with the car industry. I know the cars are going up in price, but you see new offerings. You see car manufacturers offering more affordable, for example, Mercedes-Benz, entering a different price point with that. I think it's called the A-Class. Like we see a lot of that, right? They're making an effort to get those new drivers to get into the Mercedes brand or BMW, but I don't know if we do that within HiFi. I don't really know if that's something that's being done, or if they even care to entice young newcomers into this.
Did you
hobby.
see my article on January 1st called A Wake-Up Call for the Hi-Fi Industry?
I have not,
It's
Doug.
on SoundStage HiFi. I've never gotten that much feedback from within the industry, where I basically criticize the industry for sucking so bad at promoting reasonably priced gear. A lot of it's out there. And inside, so many companies, people from the companies wrote to me and said, you're 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad we aligned then. Yep.
I agree with him too. Look, if you're asking me, is product better today? Absolutely. The fit, finish, and total overall quality of the gear that's being manufactured is significantly better. The amount of failures that you have today is almost non-existent. The level of packaging and finishing is world-class. It is. But remember something, with that also comes a price. The better you manufacture, the better the materials, the better the box, the flight case, the 300-pound remotes, and all that other stuff. The aircraft aluminum raises the price. Yep. I agree with Doug, however, that, and I've said this before, and I said it from a different way. And I'm not talking about SoundStage, because honestly, I'm not that familiar with what you write about. But it's almost impossible to get most magazines to pay any attention to you, especially the big reviewers, unless you got something with a bunch of zeros at the end. at the end. It's like, what's cutting edge, what's leading state of the art, whatever else it may be. If you make a $10,000 D to A converter and it's as good as anything out there, you have a hard time to find somebody to write about it. Okay?
And this is a problem in the press. And this is something.
Let me finish. Okay. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think that perhaps some of the press, should really be concerned with trying to promote. When I started, you had things like Advent and EPI, and even you talked about Paradigm. I bought my house in Florida from Paradigm. I used to get a shipment every week. When I lived in New York, it was Polk. Every week I used to get it. Now the business has changed, but the industry has given up on that. Okay. They don't seem to care at all. And with this increase in super luxury materials and carbon fiber and blocks of aluminum and stuff, you know what? You can still make a pair of speakers out of a wood box, okay? And you can make something that people can afford. I just don't think they want to be, okay? And whether there's no profit in it or the overhead cost to manufacture it too much, or the cost of money, but where is your entry level? I don't even know what the price point is, and I may embarrass myself, but can you even buy $1,000 pair of speakers that somebody wants to buy? Can you buy? You got to remember back in the day, Doug. An audio research preamp was $695. A Lin turntable was $300. Okay, Advents were $107 a pair. Okay, a piece. Okay, so this is kind of a different thing. And then you have today where you've got somebody in the audience buying $500,000 monoblocks. Okay, and that's cool. I mean, there's a place for Bentley and Rolls-Royce and Ferrari, but there's also a place for an economical scooter, I think, too.
Well, okay, because I wrote about that in that article. So there's more. Well, maybe not more, but there's better quality, inexpensive stuff out there today. And the reviewers have done a really poor job. And so I've run this large group of websites. We have 10. And we have one that used to be called Good Sound. Now it's called SoundStage Access, that Dennis Berger is the lead editor. And Dennis Berger keeps himself in that thing. And you can find many outstanding loudspeakers. And I would, under $1,000, Q Acoustics being one of them. Paradigm makes them, that sort of thing, PSB. But the point is, that many reviewers, and this is where I did a video where they become shills, is do you want to be a popular reviewer, or are you just stocking your system? Because many of these guys are just stocking their system. They're not really looking at writing about audio. You want to write about audio. I label it this way. There are audio writers. Our Gordon Brockhouse, who's our editor, is an audio writer. He can write about any topic on audio with authority, providing he's researched it. Okay. Then there are audio reviewers. They review equipment. Okay. And you can have an audio reviewer who's an audio writer too. They can crisscross back and forth. Dennis Berger is a good example of that. And Gordon Brockhouse is a very good reviewer now too. But then there's these guys who just want to stock their systems up with gear. And they're not audio reviewers. They're guys who just are using it as an excuse to stock their systems up with gear. And that it naturally goes, oh, I'll do your $5,000 DAC. Now I want a $100,000 DAC. Now I want this. Now I want that.
Doug, are you talking about reviewers even at Absolute Sound and Stereophile, or are you talking about lower level stuff?
I'm talking everywhere. I've been doing this 30 years, where you are hard pressed to find someone who will stay in Dennis Berger's lane.
Yeah.
They just naturally now that I'm doing this, I just want to review $30,000 stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a really popular person? Because if you did nothing but this inexpensive stuff, you'd be super popular.
I remember when I got started, Doug, at Positive Feedback 25 years ago, and I completely forgot. I don't know. It was some fancy tube amp that I saw at another reviewer's home in LA. And I was like, well, how can I review that? It was like, well, that's a $30,000 tube amp. You're going to have to start off with, a couple $1,000 tube amps, and then we can work you into that. And so you're absolutely right. That's exactly how it was. Right. And then, from there on, the trajectory starts going up and up and up. And it's a lot of people use it to, it's their hobby. They're changing gear out every 2 weeks. I mean, the other question that I always have is this, right? I mean, when I look back at my trajectory, right? I think on average, I would review maybe 5 or 6 components a year, maybe 7. How in the world can someone review a component every week to post a new video on YouTube every week of the year? How is that even possible?
You can't. That's why you don't see me doing that. You can't.
It's nonsense.
It's impossible.
It's nonsense. And yet there's shills out there doing it day in, day out.
Because their business model has turned not from, so that's where that whole thing falls apart. They just need to churn gear.
Exactly.
Get money somehow that isn't advertising, pay off gear, something, right? To churn. It isn't a good business model. It's not
absolutely.
No.
And yet they're successful.
Well, you ever notice that a lot of those guys suddenly just disappear?
That's
the success
true too.
Can be a little bit misleading.
Let's move on. Question number 7. What is the biggest mistake audiophiles make when putting their systems together? Who wants to go first? Elliot?
Let me grab popcorn for this one.
I think that the majority of people don't know enough. Okay, I'll put it that way. I don't think they know enough. I think that, we're talking about affordable stuff. I know as a dealer, I can't do it. I don't have enough space and I don't have a tough time. But if you gave me $3,000 or $4,000 worth of equipment and give me a few hours, I can make it sound great. Okay, it's always about the setup. I think people are enamored by the look and the price and the knobs and everybody's opinion, except what to do with it. Okay, it's always about the value, the price, not about the value. It's about the hunt, but not the result. And I think that's the really biggest thing. It's like, you need to know what you're trying to do. And sometimes in life, I don't care what it is, none of us know everything, okay? And I've said this before, I love to play golf, but I don't know shit really about the equipment other than, and if I'm going to read the ads and I'd be hitting the ball 700 yards by now. Every year it's 10 years longer and 10 years longer. You need somebody to help you. You need somebody to teach you. There's not enough education. How to is more important than what to, okay? I've heard some of the most expensive, horrible systems in the world, and I've heard some things that are really affordable that really knock your socks off. And that's all about the setup and taking the time and the effort to do it more than, it's got 67 capacitors and it has solid copper heat sinks and it's got plutonium speaker terminals and carbon fiber feet, and it comes in a flight case. All of that is, I'm not saying it's not important, okay, but it doesn't make the product any better.
Okay. I would say for me personally is choosing the wrong speaker for the wrong room, and also room acoustics, overlooking at the importance of room acoustics. A lot of people buy equipment, throw it in a room, and have absolutely no idea the importance of room acoustics. And they are completely unaware that, and I actually realized this more when I moved out of my last room, that what you hear is it's highly impacted by the lack of room acoustics. As long as you overlook those two things, you'll always fail with your system, in my opinion.
Doug?
Yeah, I agree with room acoustics. I mean, how the speaker interacts, that's basically the whole thing is what you hear. But I would say when you say the mistake people make buying equipment is associating price with performance and assuming that higher price means higher performance and bigger means better. That's not necessarily the truth at all. You need to spend a certain amount to get really great equipment, but beyond that amount, the price performance thing really gets questionable and it isn't linear. So price and size is a big mistake.
Danny.
Paying too much attention to reviewers. Reading too much absolute sound stereophile. Just kidding. SoundStage network. No. I mean, I think everything that you guys have mentioned is probably right up there on my list as well. But yeah, seriously, I mean, I think it's maybe not even so much the mistake they make, but to find some mentors, find some people that have been down the road before, find some people that, know what they're doing, ask lots of questions. My motto has always been, the more questions you ask, the quicker the layer of the onion comes apart. And just don't believe everything you read and see.
My view is actually slightly different than you guys, I think. My answer is
shocking.
The biggest issue is not knowing what an audiophile is trying to achieve. I believe strongly there are different objectives in the hobby. One objective is reproduce exactly what's on the CD or vinyl or tape being played, kind of an accuracy concept, as Jonathan Vallon puts it. This tends to focus on detail and resolution and focuses on what the microphone heard. To me, that's a very different objective than something like create a sound that seems live, which focuses on different sonic cues and focuses more on what the listener hears in the concert hall. Different objectives drive different component purchases. Different component purchases result in systems that truly sound different. So I think it's important to know what your objective is. Otherwise, it's easy to be chasing your tail. Next question. Which product category in high-end audio is the least defensible technically?
Oh, you missed a question.
Yeah, but we're moving along. I thought it was a little less interesting than the last one. I don't want to, we're running kind of long.
Okay.
So let's go to the more interesting final question. Which product category is least defensible technically?
What are we calling product categories?
Cables, grounding boxes, power conditioners, amplifiers, speakers, every component.
Accessories.
Okay, tell us about it.
I don't think there's any defense for a lot of the stuff that's being sold out there, and I'm not a black box believer. I'm not saying people shouldn't buy it. I just don't spend any of my time and effort on boxes and filters and cable lifters and gloop and all the rest of the stuff.
Sounds like you're criticizing Ted Denning.
I'm not criticizing anybody. This is my philosophy. I think that people have the most problem with cables. Okay, I'm not saying they're not defensible. I'm saying people have the most problem with them because people look at this as it's a piece of wire. Okay, and whether it's fat wire, skinny wire, purple wire, striped wire, this is a mentality that they have. And so whether there's a lot of science involved or not science involved, I'm not even getting into. You ask which is the most undefensible, it's this. When you see a big giant amplifier, a big speaker, people, I think, accept the fact that there's something going on in there, okay? Whereas on a piece of wire, they look at it as a piece of wire. It's like it's like a hot dog and $1,000 hot dog. It's still a hot dog, and that's the way they look at it.
Okay, but are you saying cables are the least defensible technically? Because that's the question.
I think they're the least defensible selling wise.
Okay.
Again, the problem with most of this technology, when you and I have a pet peeve with this too. The audio industry is full of a technical advance as a sonic advance, and I think that's a crock of shit. Okay, because you're making something out of beryllium or titanium or uranium or polonium or unobtainium doesn't necessarily make it better. It might make it better. Three things happen when you change a material. It gets better, it gets worse, or nothing. But the one thing it always does, it gets more expensive.
Doug, what do you think?
Network switches, audiophile network switches.
Okay.
It's interesting.
My background's computer systems. Before I did this, I was a programmer, network engineer, all that. And I can give you the number one reasons they're bullshit. Okay, and I made a video about it. Number one, they've thrown out the idea that they improve timing accuracy. You're transporting on Ethernet a packetized system that contains no audio clock. In fact, the packets don't even come down in the same order necessarily that they were sent. It all gets assembled at the end. There is no timing information. 2, the noise people report to hear. Well, if it's noise from the shitty power supply, get a dedicated circuit on it. A lot cheaper than a network switch. If it's noise coming out of the thing, get a good DAC, because any competent DAC designer has compensated for that noise at the input. And that's a mistake these guys in Alpha Audio did when they did tests. Oh, we saw noise in the network switches. Well, did you look at the output of the DAC and see if that changed? Because if you didn't have a good DAC, and if you have a competent DAC, Ed Meitner knows how to make a competent DAC. MSB knows how to make a competent DAC. Hagel knows how to make a competent DAC. 3, and this is the killer when you say least defensible. Do you know what it takes to make a network switch? A team of engineers in China mass producing it and designing it. So I dare anyone to crack open their network switch, audiophile grade, and see which D-Link or something from Best Buy it came from, because nobody is designing a network switch. That's the one thing I think is it's the least defensible.
Well, doesn't Tyco claim to be designing from the ground up a network switch?
Correct.
You're not getting theirs from China.
Okay, it's not proving clock accuracy. It's not improving noise performance on a competent DAC in any way. Let them send it to me. Nobody has ever disputed this. And as far as defending what they do, no company has ever defended the network switch.
Jay.
For me, it would be 2 things. If I got to be specific, it would be cable lifters and Ethernet cables. And I'm not saying they don't make a difference. I want to be clear. But I think those are the most difficult ones to defend, let alone sell.
Danny.
Of course, I couldn't resist. I had to pull up Stein music. Holger Stein. Ladies and gentlemen. So I'm looking at the Blue Sun. Stein Music Blue Sun and Blue Sun Signature are the latest development of the Stein Music harmonizer system.
Are these like the Shunmook pucks?
Yeah, no, this is even worse. They have a strong impact regarding good room acoustics. They work best in combination with more harmonizers. But if you just use a dozen of them, it's an incredible impact. I mean, like, seriously, what is this crap? Like, if you look at the website, steinmusic.com, it looks like a shell, a circular shell made out of who knows what. Like, what is this crap?
Okay.
And what is he selling these for? $500 a pop? Are you kidding me? Anyway, case closed.
Holger came over. A mutual friend brought Holger and his delightful wife over, and they put up a whole bunch of stuff in the room. And I'm not a tweaky voodoo guy. I'm not into tweaks at all. I absolutely would not have been able to blind A/B any difference whatsoever. The mutual friend was convinced he heard differences. If anything, maybe there was a touch smoother sounding, but I do believe in some blind testing, and there's no way it rose to an efficacy which would have allowed me to identify it blind. But Holger and his wife are delightful, and plenty of people like their products. So
are these like ringing Tibetan bells or something?
I don't know. These are he calls them. What I did not like is the name. Anybody calls anything a fucking quantum, it totally turns me off. So he has something called quantum discs. I said, Holger, drop the fucking name quantum. It's absolutely
quantum is how you make everything.
By the way, guys, you do realize this is why I stay away from this stuff. If there's anything in the world that chases new customers away, it's all of this audio bullshit. Okay. You need boxes and lifters and thingamabobs and gongs and things on the floor with fucking antennas. Okay. Real people don't buy this stuff. Only the propeller heads buy that. When you go into a guy that lives in a $10 million house and he comes into your store and he plays the system, whatever the price is, whether it's $10,000 or $600,000, when I say Mr. and Mrs. whatever it is, you got to put this in their house. And they look and they go, are you out of your mind? Okay. They have a designer. Okay. They don't even want to see the wires. Okay. And we produce this stuff that makes no sense to them. Okay. It's like putting a giant wing on a Toyota. Okay. It's bullshit. Okay. The kid may think he's got a sports car, but he didn't change the engine or the suspension. He just put a wing on that doesn't work less than 80 miles an hour.
And I agree. Like, I don't care if somebody spends $1 bazillion, but once you start adding on the bullshit tweaks or the accessories that are highly questionable, right? They can spend tons on cables and stuff. That all needs to work the system. It turns a lot of people off.
Okay, I want to take the contra side, as I like to do. The fact is, there are a bunch of people in What's Best that like a lot of these kinds of things. One of the products, I can never pronounce the name, Scherzinger. It's I think, German.
Schnapzinger.
I don't know how to pronounce it. There are plenty of people in What's Best that have bought these things, like the efficacy, believe it does something positive for the systems. If they feel it and they believe that, God bless. It's not my personal thing, but I do want to point out that it's a popular product that is talked about a lot in What's Best. Okay, are we ready for the music segment? Danny,
Ron,
take it.
You have to escape out of audiophilia. You have to meet real people, okay?
I know plenty.
I'm going to buy you a colander with tinfoil antenna because all of those people, the world, when we're talking about the industry, it's not about audiophiles. Low-end stuff and whatever is not for audiophiles. It's for people that actually want to listen to music, not argue about
Amen.
which gizmo is better.
That's right.
But that's part of the hobby. Arguing about gizmos is
Now,
part
Danny,
of the
let's have music that nobody's ever heard of.
All right, here we go.
Okay,
So,
Danny, take it away.
Speaking or staying with the German theme this evening. So everybody, of course, I mean, at least I remember way back when I joined the Audiophilia Nervosa Club, everybody was showing up with the Davos soundtrack, Mickey Hart and Planet Drum and all that. And I was like, dude, okay, but are there actual like drum records or percussion records that you can really like listen to? So here's this German guy called Kurt Kress. And let me tell you, so he's a studio musician, German studio musician. He's played with hundreds of bands, recorded tens of thousands of songs, probably, maybe not tens of thousands, but you catch my drift. Anyway, this is, let me tell you something, way better sounding than Davos, way better musically than anything Mickey Hart can drum up. Absolutely killer. And this is an original Vea German pressing. I don't think this came out in the US, but anyway, Kurt Kress, if there's anyone from Germany following or watching us, there you go. I mentioned it. And then one other recommendation, and I wanted to leave the rest of the time open for Doug, because I think he's got something cool to announce, is the great and one and only one of a kind vibe player, the great Walt Dickerson. So, not too well known, I guess. Unfortunately, I should say. This is one of his early records, To My Queen. This is an El Cheapo $25 digital copy reissue that beats the pants off my Japanese reissue. An original is next to impossible to find. ERC reissued this a couple of years ago in mono. This is the stereo. If you're into like really just chill vibe music, minimal setup, trio, quartet, stunning. Walt Dickerson, highly recommend it.
Doug, you have a release to tell us about.
Yeah, and I'm okay to say it because I know it's not supposed to be self-promotional.
No, go ahead.
So
You're in the
over
music
summer,
segment.
This is shown in reverse, but there's a book called Listen Up. We partnered with Mark Howard. He's produced what I didn't know till the summer, recordings that I've loved the sound of, but I didn't know he was the sound, such as Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind, Oh Mercy, Tragically Hip's Day for Night, the Neville Brothers' Yellow Moon, Daniel Lanois' Lanois. He worked with Neil Young's Lanois, Daniel Lanois' Acadie, all these things. And he was the sound engineer with Daniel Lanois, but also produced a number of them. So I got a hold of him over the summertime. And he had some albums already made, and we're making more that he's already recorded in that style. Of artists people aren't going to know, this guy's named Martin Verrell out of Hamilton. And it's got a very Tom Waits bluesy vibe, but you won't confuse him with Tom Waits. We agreed with Mark that we would package them beautifully on vinyl, 180 gram under SoundStage recordings with Mark Howard.
Nice.
Gatefold. Martin did the artwork on all that. And we have 3 releases coming out. This is the first. It's hot off the press a few weeks ago. And they're real audiophile recordings. If you go and listen to Willie Nelson's Teatro, which Mark did, or Oh Mercy, or Time Out of Mind, he gets mind-blowing dynamics, phenomenal bass, a real mid-range presence like pow. And what we've done here is we haven't put it through an additional mastering process. What I promised Mark was he wasn't happy in some of the big releases he did where a mastering engineer would go tweak the sound. He delivered the sound he wanted. And then that went straight to the record plant.
Are these all
If he did Teatro, he's really good. Because Teatro is one of the best recordings you'll find, period.
Yeah.
Really
actually, you didn't work in New York at a store and sell him Paradigm speakers, did you?
It's possible, but I will tell you that I use the track Annie on Teatro as a demo all the time, and it's an incredible instrumental piece, and it'll really test your system.
He did it, and I visited Teatro last week in Oxnard, California. Mark doesn't work there, but he did Teatro in 2 days.
Are these all analog recordings, Doug?
So no, he might use analog equipment, but he brings them to a digital recording. So they all go on a system called IZ Radar. They all end up digitally recorded. You know what I mean? They might go through analog. There's some analog on here.
That's fine.
Are they only available as records?
Only available right now as records because we did a really nice pressing, and I'll tell you, we want to make some money for the artists. And I was watching. You ever see somebody pick up a CD and throw it away? It means nothing. People look at this album, they see a beautiful pressing, they see, an art piece, and it might come out in high resolution digital in the future, but right now it's just all analog.
That's a shame.
Hey, Doug, I promise you will not have to advertise at Sonic Flare. If you send me a review copy, happy to listen to it.
Send me, if you got a good turntable, send me your address, and it's a phenomenal sounding record.
I would ask you to send me one, but the Wadax Studio.
And I think Ron's got one already.
Yes, Doug was kind enough to send it to me. I'm very excited, looking forward to hearing it.
Oh, nice. Awesome. I can't wait to hear it.
Let me promote that.
Any very quick final thoughts? We're running long. Any quick final thoughts?
Gosh, Ron, relax. We're having a good conversation for schmutz there.
Yeah. Running long for what? Okay. What are we running long for? It's 10 o'clock at night.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I got to go out. I'm going to hit the clubs. I got to leave.
I do want to say one thing because it was can I add one thing?
Yes,
of course.
Sure.
Because I travel a lot, and you asked about audio designers that you might bring it up, and I listed out. You can't really read them here.
Oh wow!
But the people. No, that wasn't the one. That was your thing. Oh yeah, here it is.
Your first one, yeah.
That one and that one. The people I regularly phone and talk to, because I'm a believer in, one mistake audio reviewers do is think they know everything. And I come from a computer background. And one thing, if you find a computer guy who thinks he knows everything, he knows nothing. It's too vast. You find experts, you start questioning, and there are these people I'll phone. And number one I've learned from is Paul Barton of PSP Speakers. He taught me speaker design in 1999. Lawrence Dickey of Vivid Audio and Jack Oakley Brown of KEF. I can phone those guys up with the hardest technical questions, say, explain this to me. And then all these guys, and they will tell you that information. I think it's a mistake for reviewers not to learn more. And the MSB people, I can tell you, was talking to Dustin Szymanski about digital signal processing last week, and he explained FIR filters like nobody's explained them to me. And that information they are happy to disclose.
Yep.
They want an educated reviewer community.
Just give them a
Danny,
call. Yep.
Danny, I think we need to filibuster because everybody wants to stay on. Why don't you tell us your whole life history, okay, in slow motion, just to piss Ron off?
That's funny.
Okay, gentlemen, please like this video, subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing this for you.
Hey,
And
Doug.
as
Good
a
night,
special
everybody.
prize, as a special prize, if we reach 1,000 subscribers, the guy who's 1,000 subscriber, we're going to offer a one of a lifetime opportunity. That's if we get there in February.
The prize is the 1,000th subscriber gets a free pair of Global speakers.
No,
Nice.
Oh, that's a good deal.
The 1,000th subscriber is going to be invited on the show.
Nice.
Ooh,
There
okay,
you
I
go.
like
I
it.
want to compliment
All right.
Danny on something. You're representing one of the best companies in
And
HiFi.
and he
That's
gets to go to
EMMLabs.
Danny's hairdresser.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Hey,
And then
Doug,
afterwards, he
you're
can go
awesome,
to
man.
Jay's.
Absolutely great meeting you. Thanks for coming on. Real pleasure.
Thanks,
Okay,
Pleasure.
Doug.
thank you. No, it was
Pleasure,
great time.
dog.
Okay, thank you.
Great
Thanks,
show,
guys.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.